Okay. So, this is gonna be a different type of video. I remember I wanted to do something more along the lines of like little phrases that I like and then kind of explaining them. I feel like this is not good lighting and I should just turn the light on and get over it. Okay. Okay. I think the light is too strong. Maybe. Okay. Okay. So, um, I kind of want to do, I mean, this is a very different look for me, I'll be very honest. My hair is kind of like half straightened, half like, I don't know what. And, okay, let's just, hello, how are you doing? I have a very different look today. My little cousins straightened my hair. Um, they wanted to see if it was long or not. And I wanted to then kind of like record. Okay. So, so this is going to be a different type of like, I guess this is the third different thing I wanted to do on here. So there are little things that, just little sayings that I've said. I know I look very different today than in my other videos. My little cousins wanted to kind of see how long my hair was. Um, so they straightened it and I just kind of put it in a ponytail and now, I mean, it is what it is. Okay. You guys aren't here for my looks. Um, so it's kind of like little things that I've heard said and then like things I just want to talk about it. I don't have any writing specifically on this. It's not coming from something like a poem I wrote or anything like that. It's just things I hear or things I say. Um and yeah, it's just things I hear or things I say. I have quite a few tattoos. You guys haven't seen them, I don't think. I mean, this one maybe you've seen it in a short sleeve type of video, but I'm someone who just loves phrases. I love things that allow you to have a conversation, that get you to think, that can be perceived in a variety of ways, right? So it's just something I've always kind of enjoyed and have then marked my body with it. Not all the sayings I've ever said ever are on my body, of course, but there are things, and I just like certain things or I hear things and I just want to talk about them. And so today, what we're going to be talking about is, I think I'll start with the one that's right off the top. I feel like one day I'll go back to this and even talk about it. But um, so I grew up in the LA area and, I'm in my late 20s. So I grew up during the come up of a lot of the artists that are really, well, I guess like everyone technically does grow up during the come up, but specifically Kendrick Lamar was someone who began blowing up while I was in high school. And he was someone I had listened to prior to that as well. His progression is similar to me in my mind of like the Tyler the Creator because by 2012, like OF was big and they already had Loader Squad and stuff like that. So I might be off on the dates, but you guys can get mad at me. I'm just not one of those people. I love people that are like that and know all the stuff, but you can't expect me to then know all the things. It just doesn't work. But I love that you love that. So for me, I've always loved Kendrick Lamar. He's been one of the rappers I loved. Growing up in California, I feel like especially, like, in the LA area, you just end up growing up with, um, I would say a love for hip hop, if not a love for rap or, like, at least a knowing of it. Um, if, like, you don't wanna say, "Ah, I'm from LA and I don't love rap." Okay, fine. Good for you, girl. You're missing out. But it's just, like, part of the culture that is in that area. So, you know, you grow up listening to the classics or whatever, but Kendrick Lamar was one of those ones that were like, as I'm growing up, like, he's becoming and people are getting to know him, and it's just like, "Whoa, what?" You know, it gets exciting. And, one of his albums, I think it's, like, the second one that he was, like, people really knew him with because I think, like, Good Kid, Mad City was, like, the first one that everybody knew him, and then there's, like, Section 80 and, I can't remember, but it has the girl there with, what is that one? Um, anyway, so there's 2 albums before, but, like, not everybody knows those. I mean, maybe now everybody does, and then there's Section 80 that, like, more people knew, but then more than anything, it was Good Kid, Mad City, and then To Pimp a Butterfly came, right? So for me to I mean, I don't know. It's up to you, whatever you say, right? It's like for some people, for Tyler the Creator, it's like they met him at Igor or they met him at the Flower Boy. It's like, when did you meet him, right? Or did you meet him at Bastard? Like, when did you meet him? And like, whatever. It's not that deep. You can always go back and listen to the music and understand the growth and development, blah, 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 blah. So for me, To Pimp a Butterfly, I loved it. It was, that's when I was like, this guy's an artist. It's like, and I talk about them too a lot because even though they seem different, in my mind, like they're actually artists and musicians. There's like more to it than just like, can I get a beat and can I say some stuff? There's like an art to it. And there's an art to that, of course, but then there's the art that comes overall, right? And not everybody's into it. Not everybody has to be into it to be good in in that industry. Now, that being said, I don't know anything, so who cares what I have to say, of course. But what I will say is To Pimp a Butterfly was one of those that I loved. I love an album that is like about a story, that we're getting a story delivered to us. I'm in. I'm here for that. And obviously, he's not the first person to do that, not the first person hip hop, blah, blah, blah. I know that. But it was one that I really loved because I already had something close in my heart from him. So that all that weird introduction of me just talking about stuff that I just like to talk about is leading to one of the sayings I would always say is to pimp it. You gotta pimp it. Pimp the situation. And of course, like, maybe not the best use of certain terminology or language, but for me to pimp it, I liked it. It was something that and it comes from that because I felt like you gotta learn how to pimp a situation. And now I'm gonna go into, like, what that really means for me, right? So I think a lot of times, it's, like, similar to, like, finding a silver line, but I also just feel like when you find the silver line, you, like, look for the good thing in it, right? And that's good. But I'm more talking about when you're in a situation, how do you make that situation work for you? And it is up to you to make it work for you or not make it work for you. Because there's things that, aren't great. And then how do you learn how to make that work for you? And it can be like, it's more than the silver lining for me because the silver lining is finding the good part versus pimping it is even in the bad part, how do I make that work for me? Even when things aren't good, even when there isn't a positive situation coming, how do I make that work for me? And, it's not easy, okay? You gotta do mental gymnastics in a lot of ways, and it takes a lot of self-confrontation because at the end of the day, you then have to take responsibility that things are not working against you. I'm breaking out if you're curious of what those 3 dots are going on there. Okay, you can find the perimeter if you'd like in the area. It's a triangle, basically. Anyways, um, pimping a situation for me is like even when things are bad, you learn how to make it work for you and gain something out of it that will then cost you your self development. But it also requires self-responsibility and self-accountability because it that type of mentality, it takes you away from the ability to be like, "You know what? I'm the victim, and, like, I'm sad, and it sucks for me, and, like, things are hard for me." And, like, some stuff is hard, and I get that, and, like, other people have harder situations than me, and I totally understand that. But there are people who have things that are way going on way worse than me, and they still have a better mentality than me because they're able to see things from a different light and different perspective. So I'm not someone who I I understand certain things in my life, not nice, not pretty, but I don't want to focus on that. And I want to know, what did that situation really do for me? What could I learn? What could I gain? How could I transform that situation into something that is now working for me? Right. And it's tough because I feel like it creates a self-confrontation because, I've been in situations where in living situations, just in environments that I am like, okay, nobody is looking out for me. I feel unsafe. I feel uncared for. I feel insignificant and I feel unimportant. Now, with all that, I can sit here and cry, but this is my reality. This is my truth. This is where I'm at. And now it's your choice. Like that's the thing. I've always am grateful for the understanding that I have that at the end of the day it is my choice. I mean, of course, I live in the US and I'm living in an age that there's a lot of freedom, and of course, if those are all the things and the nuances you want to bring up on why I'm able to do this, totally do it. I don't mind. I'm not oblivious to that. But I'm talking about myself at this point, okay? I'm not talking in a general. So when I think about these things, I think about, okay, so this is my reality. So now I have a choice. Do I soak in, dive deep into all this stuff, or do I try to pimp the situation for myself? Okay, nobody wants to be around me. How can I pimp that? You know what? Let me work on things that I need to be alone for. Okay. Maybe I work on my writing. Maybe I work on my art. Maybe I work on my job. Maybe I work on refining things. Maybe the things that I've thought about or tried to do with things, that I never got to because I ran out of time. Now I have the time. People are ignoring me. People are this. I'm not feeling that I'm gaining the sense of reassurance that I want. Okay, can I learn to give it to myself? Do I actually need that to progress forward? And like really, and that's how you pimp a situation because then at the end, it's like, you know what? I'm actually having a good time because I like to be alone, because I'm getting to do what I want to do. I'm allowing myself and giving into these experiences that I wouldn't have had if I was saturated with things to do. I mean, and that's something that's talking from personal experience. I'm not always someone who does that, right? So I was in a living situation that I just felt like, man, everybody hates me and like people are gossiping about me. And I don't necessarily care, like, in my heart about what people are have to say, but what does bother me is I don't like when people have false ideas. I know that I'm not a perfect person, so I know that there are things that can be said about me and, like, go for it. But what I don't like is when there's, like, a falsehood that is attached to, like, what is being said. Of course, I can't really control it is so curly here. I can't really control what is gonna be said, how it's going to be said, how it's gonna be presented, and all those things. I can't really control that. It's not in my hands, and it doesn't really have to be in my hands, and it's really not my responsibility, and I really have to, like, detach from, like, that. And so when I got to a certain place, I was just like, "Oh," like, so sad, and it became to very much the spirit of guilt and the spirit of condemnation and the spirit of that, and if maybe you don't understand that terminology, it's when you begin to really get down on yourself and those voices or feelings, however it comes to you, become very clear, very strong, shall we say, that it is like, "You aren't good. You couldn't be good." And you aren't, and nobody's ever gonna like you. And the reason why people are saying that is because it's probably true. Those types of things where you're like, well, gosh, like perhaps it is true. I know that those are things that I'm working on and those are things that I've changed, but you know, Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm never going to gain acceptance. Maybe I was never meant to have any kind of care or love or compassion or sympathy from another person. And you begin to believe it. So, and I go there, but then I realize, like, hold up, relax. What really needs to be done here is, okay, what can I do? Okay, these people don't know me. They're saying all these things about me. They're attacking me in different ways. What's in my power? How can I pivot the situation? I can be completely 100% free, completely 100% me, knowing who I am, knowing how God knows my heart, knowing how I've been formed. And at the end of the day, if it blows up in their face or not, who cares? Because now that they're ostracizing me, I know I don't want to interact with these people. I don't wanna be around these people. I don't want their acceptance. I don't want them to look good on me. I don't want their compliments. I don't want anything to do with them. And it's not in a mean way, it's not putting down. It's just like, how can I make the situation for me? I'm learning that if this starts to go on, I keep myself out. And instead of me trying to be exemplary and show things, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do what I need to do. And I'm gonna do what I wanna do. And I'm gonna go be a part of things that I wanna do. And then they can keep saying the things that they wanna say. So then it just I don't mind. I can add more fuel to the fire. Because at least now I'm doing where my heart's calling. If God's calling me there to go help do that, to go be around these people, let it be. And it's kind of that understanding of allowing a situation, and that's where it comes from, right? Pimp the situation. It's just like I could have really kept going deeper and deeper and deeper, and God can't help you out of that and all that stuff, but He can also illuminate you on what He's doing for you. It's like we don't really know, but most of the time, what's really going on here is we're being prepared for for something to happen. We're being prepared because it's like, if you think this is bad, this is for you to be set up because if you can handle this, if you can bear this type of energy, if you can bear this type of treatment, then you can go where I'm going to send you. Because if God's really the one sending you to a place, it doesn't mean it's going to be peaches and cream. When the people, okay, when the Israelites, right? When they reached the promised land, when they finally got to go in, Moses didn't get to go in, but when everyone else finally got to go in, guess what? They had to toil land. They had to fix up their houses. They had to clean, they had to cook, they had to do things. It wasn't like they got to the promised land and it was like, "Kick back, relax, we're chill." It was like, "Whoa, okay, so now we've inherited this land. We just won this war against these people that were they were the hell of people here, and we somehow won this. Okay, the victory. Now there's work to do." And you can and then also sometimes it's like even in the positive because you can be like, "I won, I won, I won, I won, I won," but eventually that moment passes too. And, like, if you keep focusing on, like, that one time you won or that one time this happened or that one time when God blessed you this way or the way that He did the season before, the time before, if that becomes your hyper focus, you're losing something there too. Because you gotta be present, you gotta be ready at any situation, at any thought, at any idea. I've had people where and I just be it's incredible the peace that you get when you really just let go, and be like, "Okay, God, you're right." It is a peace that I cannot even describe. It is something that has just come over me in a way that washed over me in a way I can really say. And it's because I learned how to pimp those situations for my good, and I know that's probably, like, not the best word, and, like, maybe not. It doesn't always have a positive connotation. What do you guys think? This hairstyle? Are we doing it's like I have unintentional layers because I just grew my hair out. Anyways, sorry. I'm just someone who can get distracted sometimes. Anyway, so I feel like I look like a '90s surfer skater boy. Please tell me if I do or don't. I feel like I do. I feel like I look like I should be on Disney Channel with this floppy hair. The rocker as like a surfer, I don't know. Mhm. Mm. Mm-mm. But the problem is, I think it's like hard because there's like such a fine balance when it comes to being realize and then like self-obsessed or, self it's such a fine line because being like self-aware is good, but then it can cause to the point where like you are just hyper obsessed with your own emotions, your own point of view, and your own like little world that then you're not doing what you need to do because we're here to be for everybody, we're here to look for the people. Now, it's also where it's like where you're self-attacking and you're self-putting down. That's another form of self-obsession because you might actually suck, but guess what? Not that deep. Because almost anybody biblically speaking at least, when you look at what they were able to do, they weren't always necessarily the most equipped. So you might suck. Okay, I'm not saying you do, but just follow me. You might suck, you could be all that, but guess what? If you have God, you understand that you being that, as long as you're open, he can do so much with you, and that's kinda like the coolest thing ever. Because like, I'm probably not awesome, but God is so awesome that his light can shine through me and I can affect people. The greatest gift I have is that he can use me as a tool, that I am good enough for him, that he would use me to show love to others, show care to others, show, attention to others. That's how I feel. I feel that just being that is the most it's the most humbling experience as well as oh, give me a second. Um, uh, give me one okay. Sorry, I just didn't know if there was okay, right. It's you've gotta be careful with extremes of any form. I now you don't uplift yourself to the point that you think you're amazing, but you don't put yourself down that you think you're nothing and then that's all you're focusing on. Those are 2 bad things. You just gotta learn how to pimp situations and make them work for you. And it's not necessarily them working for you, but more along the lines of, more along the lines of, like, seeing what you can really get out of it. I don't like I'm a silver lining type of person, but I always felt like it was more because a lot of people tell me that. They're like, "I don't understand how, like, you're still able to find something positive that just happened or something good out of that." And I always considered myself very pessimistic. I just didn't see myself, I just never really saw myself, give me 1 second, okay? Right. Um Let me just pause this. Okay, go ahead. Okay. So you gotta pimp it, things it's because, you know, I feel like how do I say this? So I think sometimes you see a lot of people say like, "Oh, if this is bad, you got to get out and you got to leave." And I believe that's true. I think certain times, like that, you have no choice but to leave. I'm the kind of person that I stayed in places I really was like supposed to leave, and I really was supposed to like, not be there, like, I would overstay my welcome, not, like, towards the people, but, like, God was like, "Girl, like, you can't keep staying in a place where they keep doing this to you, like, you've learned your lesson, you pushed through, but, like, it's gonna keep hurting you, you can't keep going to the place that, like, causes you to collapse and, like, get a sword in your, back every single time, like, come on." Like, and, that was a lesson I had to learn. But I think sometimes you are being put in a difficult situation to persevere through it. And you have to have the mentality that you're going to pimp that situation and it's going to be something that God is working out for your good. Oh, there's like in Genesis 50:20 or 20:50, I can't remember right now, but it's like, you wanted this to be for my bad, but God is going to work it out for its good. And then in the New Testament, there's something along those lines where it's like, or it might be in the Old Testament, I might be wrong, okay? But it talks about how all things are made good for those who love the Lord or for those who are loved by the Father. So even him, and I know maybe the word shouldn't be used in this context, and just understand, okay? Like I'm trying my best to change a lot of my tongue things. I don't feel like it's bad, but I feel like perhaps for the connotation I shouldn't be using it, especially because like, Jesus always wants to save like the prostitutes and stuff like that. But it's just this is where this saying comes from for me. And I don't equate this to the silver lining. For me, this is pimping the situation. This is learning how to, and it comes from that. For me, the reason why I talked about that whole stuff in the beginning about the album is because you kind of see him going through, he's in the perfect place, he's getting money, he's getting shows, he's in the right place, and yet he feels, the demons are real and they're knocking at his door, and that's real. And it's like, uh, you start to feel all the outer things look really nice, right? But you feel inside when you're alone, it's scary. And he then created an album out of that and made beautiful music. You Pimp the Situation because it's real and people can identify with that. And a lot of people, we don't want to talk about the dark times we had. Who wants to? Who wants to admit that they were weak once and they didn't know how to say things and they used the wrong language and things are embarrassing. There's things in my life, in my testimony that are embarrassing to me now that then I would have been like, well, at least it showed this or at least it was something positive. It's embarrassing, but it's the truth, and it's what was happening, and we gotta talk about it, because if there's no transparency of what a life looks like, a human being's life, and we always are trying to talk about how everything is perfect, you're messed up. It's not gonna work, and it's gonna confuse people, and people are gonna feel more judged, they're gonna be feel more persecuted, and that spirit that really takes over and weighs you down will come in heavy. Because now you're letting him in. You're like, "Well, yeah, I mean, everyone did this and everybody was perfect." And, like, it is good. I love the testimonies of people who were always there and always listening to God. Praise God. I love that. That's also normal. But to then say, like, there's no struggles, not normal. There are struggles. It doesn't have to be the dramatic struggles that, maybe some of us or other people have, lived through or, is their reality, but that there are struggles is there are struggles. You know? And how are we gonna take those situations? And even the good, even when the good comes, even when we're in the good place, how do we learn how to make that situation really work for us instead of just, like, being, like, in the glory? What do we learn here? What's the lesson? How do we bring this? I think something that, I've been going through recently, and I know this has, like, kind of gone everywhere and has now become, like, I'm sure, a 45-minute conversation that didn't need to be happening, um, because I did want these to be short, but whatever. The next one will be short. Um, Something that I really like, and like I always knew this, but I don't know, I just heard it said, and it being said was like, I don't know. I just liked it. It just like made the neurons be like blink, blink, blink. So, I'm Catholic, so we take the Eucharist, we take communion, but in religious, right? Whatever, in Christianity, right? So God will give us gifts and God will give us things, right? And I'm going to talk about this part later that the gifts are really be given to like heal other people's hurt. The gifts are not given like for our own glory, but more like everything that God gives us, that peace, that joy, the finances, the glory, the fame, because like, I know that's kind of like the big things that people want. The peace though, the joy, the laughter, the understanding, the wisdom, the hope, Christ faith, Christ discipline, all those things, they're only given to us so we can give back. So we can give it all. quite literally. All the ability, "Oh, I can talk, I can sing," all that is really just for you to give. It's crazy. And the only reason you can really understand that is if you pimp that. Because whatever is given to you, you make it work and you're given it. And I understand if it's like, "You shouldn't say that." I get it. But just mind you, this is something that I've said, since for a while now, okay? And I'm changing and this will be something that is here for me to be. Maybe I'm gonna be embarrassed. It's like, "Oh my gosh, girl, it could have got the same message with a different way." But I'm gonna allow this to also be a learning lesson for me, also to be a situation that I pimp for myself once again. Maybe no one's gonna watch this video anyway. It's gonna be long. No one's gonna care. And I'm okay with that because it's just this experience, this idea, this that I'm pouring out, perhaps just the prayer in this form. It's not a prayer where I'm like on my knees and really being dependent, but it's a prayer of me just trying to share and just like without yelling, like throw this out here. Maybe it will hit somebody and this can change because the thing about depression is there's a spirit attached to it 1000%, totally. But above that, it's your mind. So if you don't choose to interrupt the process that you have been doing, you don't interrupt the way your mind has been working, and you need to do it. Because I think people feel like, I'm delivered from this, I'm delivered from that. Okay, cool. But like, how are you retaining that? When the thought comes in that is maybe lustful, right? Because people deal that I think it's very common just because of like the culture we live in today. When it comes in, do you like delve deep back into that thought or are you fighting it? And how are you fighting it? That's maintaining your deliverance, right? So the way we retain our deliverance is that we change our mind, that we change our habits. We change our habits, we change our mind, we change who we are. That's the gap. That's the whole game of this because we're meant to be new creations. We are new, okay? But if you're new, right? Like you're really new, then you don't know. So therefore you have to create new habits, create new this, create new hunger. What am I hungry for? What am I thirsty for? So sorry, just realized I booked you off. What are you hungry for? What are you thirsty for? What are you doing? What is going on in those in between times? Oh, I think I heard a comedian say something like that. He's a Christian comedian. He's really, really awesome. He's a Christian comedian. He's the one who talks about obedience over sacrifice. Look him up. I feel like his name is Michael, but I can't be sure. He's awesome. I forgot where he's going because I just like wanted to give him that shout out. Now I don't know where I went, but he's amazing. Definitely look into that. But within that, I can't remember where I was going. Mhm. Maybe like the shout out was the more important part. Who knows? Um, but there, I really, I really lost my train of thought because I was just, anyways, it's okay. It happens. So go check him out. I think I'll put his link in there. And in the description or whatever. Um, you gotta change your habits, you gotta change who you are, and that is what allows you to be a new creation. It takes work, and, like, it's not comfortable, but imagine, like, if you're this new person, right? You gotta be a new person, you gotta have new craving, new tastes. It needs to change. You need to hunger for him, and how do you do that is you create a habit. You need to intercede. It's an interceding in your own personality. People can pray for you, and you can make that change. But it's like you have to do something, and the doing something is the interrupting of the process, interrupting of how I thought, interrupting of what I would have done, interrupting. And it's uncomfortable. And you won't I mean, sometimes it's like super easy, like feels more fluid, but it's a longevity of that. So pimp it. Pimp a situation, negative, positive. Make it work for you. Make it work for you. Now, that doesn't mean stay in situations that are terrible, relax, but pimp those situations. And I know that the people who want to understand this and do understand this are fully, they get it. Because it's more than finding the silver lining, it's more than finding the positive, it's making it work, making it be a part of your testimony, making it be that part that do, 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 do. How did we get to how we are? It's because of all these things. Because if you don't do that consciously, things will happen unconsciously. Some good, some bad. I'll just be real. If you don't do things with intent, if you don't do things consciously, if you're not really like looking at things and like for what they are, it doesn't mean like hyper focus. But if you don't look at how things are going, how do you know where you're going? And that doesn't also, that's the whole thing with like God, right? You have to have faith and all that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like you're smart enough to be aware of the situation you're in the present. You're not, you don't have to be who you were yesterday, right? And your past doesn't define you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, get that. You can completely make that 180, but you got to make it. And you got to make it by the stuff that you're going to do today so that you can do tomorrow, or so that you change it for the next day, and then for the next week, and then for the month. It's just simply at that. I don't, it's like, oh, I'm this person, I'll always be this person. No, you can change. But knowing that you were that person can help you learn how you can become the person you want to become. That's all it is. Learn how to pivot the situation. I did all this stuff. It didn't end up being what I wanted to be. How do I make it work for myself? How did that work for me? I could talk about this. Obviously, you can tell for a long time. Um, and there's a lot of like random little things here and there, but it's just something you got to be ready for and mindful of. The other ones I have are like, it's not that deep. I have a tattoo of that. My B, read the room, never stop having fun, always be open to laughter. Gifts of the spirit, authority over things that hurt people. Okay. And then I have numbers. I like to think about numbers a lot. And then book for the reading the word. I think there's just other questions that I for something else. But those are kind of the talking points that I kind of want to just create a conversation. So, you know, I don't know, there's a lot of things you could maybe comment on or have we could have discourse on about this. But, pimp situations in your life for them to work for you. Learn something constantly. Don't wait until things are over for you to get the lesson out of it. You're allowed to have the lesson now. And I think that's the big thing for me is I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, well, in retrospect," which like in retrospect you do gain more, okay, relax. But there's an opportunity to do to learn now. Take it. I think one of my poems that you hold your freedom, so do it. Be free. And like whatever, if you feel attacked by that, feel attacked by that. Whatever you're supposed to understand from this, understand from it. Whatever you're not, you're not. If you wanna come at me, come at me. I'll learn something from you coming at me. So, go for it, and then you can learn something from that too. That's the gag. No one gets left out. It's just like, are you gonna try? Are you gonna put that effort in? Anyway, so, that this is like another little section I kinda wanna start because I find it, I love to think about things and stuff like that, and, I don't write everything 'cause, a lot of it is just me. So, writing, I try to be more concise, although, you've seen it's not that concise all the time, but it usually is. Um, so this is just more where I just get to kind of talk about things and ideas. So tell me more things, tell me more ideas, have a conversation with me. I'm down.